Welcome to EDU TV with 4.5 lakh plus viewers and over 1,500 educational repositories across the world. The founder is Mr. Pranav Guha Thakurata and co-founder is Ms. Tanya Sethi from India.
Hello everyone and welcome to our program. It's a matter of principles. Today, we are joined by school leaders from across the world to discuss the topic. The relentless pursuit of high marks often leads to neglect of holistic learning. As we all know, education plays a vital role in shaping the future of our society. And with the increasing pressure on students to perform well academically, it's important to take a step back and examine the impact of this pressure it is having on their overall development. Our panelists today are experienced educators who have dedicated their lives to the field of education. They come from different parts of the world and have different perspectives on the topic.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pranavji. It's actually an honor for me to be amongst so many interesting and extremely profound set of education leaders, I would say. And I was taking a look at the lineup that Pranav, that you had invited for this particular session. I was amazed because all of them have led their respective domains in a most interesting way. I have done some bit of a understanding, but equally important for me, and I think it was exciting for me, was the topic that you had put in front of all of us. The relentless pursuit of high marks often leads to neglect of holistic learning. And the first thought that I got, and I started thinking about it, in journalism and in creative studies, we always tell our students and learners that as we grow older, one thing happens with all of us is that we stop learning to a larger extent, number one. Number two, the another aspect which happens is that our curiosity levels go down big time. We start getting conditioned over and over again. Expectations keep on growing. Now, in the entire race of getting new things done and acquiring new knowledge, we often miss out on the smallest thing which makes us human, which makes us the creative species, so-called. And that is the curiosity part of it, and excitement part of it. So I often say in my own classes that I think the first of the things that everybody should keep in mind is to retain this childlike curiosity in us. Now, the topic itself, holistic learning, is a very overarching large space that we can discuss about, and we can keep on discussing for till the time. But the fact of the matter is that the pressures that we see around us, whether in the schools or in the universities, kind of makes it an ideal situation where this particular holistic learning should happen. But in effect, in praxis, we often miss out on those on a day-to-day basis. So I think the purpose with which we all start, and all of you are leaders in this space, the education's purpose itself is to enable people to acquire knowledge and develop skills which make them successful members of the society. For me, sirs, I think having successful members of the society also means whether we are able to utilize our knowledge, skills to impact the world. And if we are unable to do it, how can we be successful members of the society? It's not the material gains that we're looking for. Other side of the picture also is that we need to have those particular skill sets which actually give us that particular occupation of doing things eventually in life, whatever they may be. But when you go back to the learning part of it, I think many times I've also seen it, and this is an acquired learning which I have done it, which means is that many times success and education often are also largely misunderstood. So, I mean, if you see, is a high grades going to be the successful parameter, or is it going to be something which you want to pursue and want to be happy with? So happiness and the success in terms of material are the two things which often go in different directions. But we know that, and many of you in terms of the schools that you lead today and education areas that you lead today, you have been able to showcase that both things are definitely possible. So I think we don't need people or the learners tomorrow who are run-of-the-mill kind of characteristics, those people. We don't want them. And interestingly today, sir, the practicing world, whichever area that you want to go, is also looking for people who are specialists in domains, who are larger than just the skill or the knowledge that they bring to the table. It's slightly larger than that. That's why different education models are being pursued at the school level and even at the university level. It's an interesting area. And as I said, it's a very profound thought that all of you would have it. what I wanted to do is I wanted to start this session by inviting each one of you to, put your thoughts on the topic. Yudhishter ji, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. I think by now everybody has touched upon many of the things that I wanted to touch upon. Ajay sir rightly put up. We need to prepare students for finding solutions. How many of the schools are actually looking at preparing students for finding solutions in the real world? Because who are we preparing? And when a student is in grade 4th or the 5th, we're looking at 8 to 10 years of his education that is still left to go. And after 8-10 years, we don't even know what world we'll be in. So we have to actually be realistic about what we are teaching and to what context we are teaching. For me, education or holistic education or holistic learning is preparing for the unknown. That is the real challenge, because students in today's time, they are living in a very artificial world where they are not aware about the realities of life. And this is what is missing link between schools and universities, that a student gets out of school and then he's put into the real world, and then he is suddenly not aware, Arey, ye kaise ho gaya, ve kaise ho gaya. So, the amalgamation of a transition from the school to university is very, very important. And I think one of the fellow panelists rightly said, I don't remember her name. She said we'll have to look at the relevance of what we are teaching. We have to look at the relevance of what we are teaching. And till the time, maybe right from the employer's perspective, what are the employers looking at? Are they looking at grades alone, or are they looking at skill sets? So if we will have more employers talking about the relevance of skills, we will have big companies talking about that. We'll have Elon Musk talking about that. I don't care whether you are a graduate or you could be a dropout. If you have the knowledge, I will hire you. But unfortunately, that will not be the acceptable norm across the industry. We will still have barriers wherein they will say you will need a certain degree, you will need a certain percentage just to apply or just to sit for that interview. I think we have to look at it. You have to look at the entire process holistically from the entire perspective. That till the time we are not connected together, whether it is the school or the colleges, universities, to even companies who are coming to universities for hiring purpose, till the time we all do not come under one common umbrella. And that common umbrella could be chaired by the HRD ministry, the education ministry. They up and they can have one solution wherein we all know, all right, this is our student. We need to prepare him from point A to point D. And what are the things that are missing right now? And how can each stakeholder fill in the gaps? So a school will fill in the gap to a certain extent. But the irony is the school is the maximum amount of time that the child spends in. 14, 15 years of his life are spent in a school. So if at that age, if his concepts are misplaced, if he's not told the relevance of, Deepika ji had rightly put up, we never take life skills seriously in schools, unfortunately. I will be the first one to put my hands up and say, we will have it in the curriculum, but how many of us will take it as seriously? So if we start taking things seriously, we are a boarding school. So for me, life skills becomes paramount, because when students come to a boarding school, we can identify from day one how comfortable he is in dealing with situations. A child coming to me from a big city, he just does not open up because suddenly situations get the best of him. So if the situations are getting the best of him for a 15-year-old, it's not going to be easy for a 25-year-old when there'll be hundreds of people hounding him from all sides. So we need to look at it from that perspective as well. Somebody spoke about relevant education. So again, the same thing, what we are teaching in the school has to have a relevant aspect to it. Why do children yesterday I was on a panel, Pranav was a part of that panel. He had hosted, he was kind enough to have all of us there. And one speaker was talking about how many students want to come to school in the first place, or are they forced to come to school? So that is the question. When you're talking about holistic learning, learning should be something which should be enticing for a child. It should arouse curiosity. That same curiosity is what, when they go to your university, Divakar ji, you are looking at children who have that curiosity to know more about that subject. It could be quantum physics, it could be organic chemistry, it could be hospitality management, it could be anything for that matter. But where is that curiosity? That curiosity is missing because we are talking about mundane topics, we're talking about mundane subjects. We're not talking about the relevance of those subjects. The moment a child is interested in a teacher, the moment a child shows some curiosity to learn, the same child will suddenly score marks in a different proposition. The same child will not only score marks, but will understand the concepts in a far deeper manner. Because for him, he is showing his interest towards that subject. So I think when we look at it from the other side, and when we talk about, let's make education, let's make learning fun, let's make it enjoyable. So when we look at it from that perspective, all right, the marks will, they will have a bearing at the end of the day. You will say, all right, a child will be graded. You give him marks or you give him grades. There will be certain parameters, agreed. We'll not be able to do away with all the parameters. At the end, they will be judged, they will be assessed on some parameters or the other. We may limit the weightage to 20%, 30%, 40%, or 10%, but at the end, that 10% will still reflect on his overall performance card or something. But at the end of the day, what is most important is, for all of us, for all the stakeholders to come to a common platform and understand the effectiveness of it. So it cannot be just limiting to a school or a college or a university. It has to have everybody from the entire spectrum, from the bottom to the top. All of them have to agree on the relevance of it. And one of the speakers had spoken about counseling of parents is very, very important. Till the time we don't get out and reach out to them and explain the importance or relevance of it, how are we going to change the mindset? Because the mindset is the problem out here. An educated person, who is an educated person? I think everybody will have a different definition to it. Literacy rate will have a different definition to it. Somebody who can read and write is an educated person. But in reality, how do we define who is educated? So when we can have a common definition of simple concepts, simple things, who is educated? Who's a student who we can say, isko padhna likhna janta hai ye. Kaun hai wo bachcha? How do we label it? How do we define him? There's no definition across schools or universities. We don't have any common minimum thing that we can associate a child with. Just because he has a certificate from an ISC board or a CBSC board, we say, okay, he has graduated from class 10, he has graduated from class 12. But in reality, can we call him educated? If he goes on the road, if he does not have basic manners, basic etiquette, if he does not know how to resolve problems, then how are we actually grooming him for the real world? We are just preparing him to get in the real world without having any reality check of what's going to happen with him tomorrow. Holistic learning, in a nutshell, is about starting from the reality. What is the real world that the child is going to face tomorrow? And then all the stakeholders from schools, colleges, everybody should try to chip in and try to ensure that we are ensuring that the child is aware of each and every reality that he is going to face. Let's talk about responsibility. How many of our children are responsible? Let's talk about accountability. How many of us talk about accountability? We will have Stanford talking about, we will have Yale talking about happiness, but we will not have many schools talking about happiness. Why shouldn't they talk about happiness? If a child is happy, tell me a happy child will never disrespect his teacher. A happy child will never disrespect his parents, but we will never realize the importance of happiness till the time we don't score marks in happiness. The moment we start giving marks in happiness, everybody will say, ki chalo mujhe happiness class mein jana hai because wahan pe mujhe marks milenge. So that mindset has to change. Till the time we don't talk about the mindset, nothing is going to change. We'll have the best of policies. We had the CCE implemented a couple of years back by the CBSC board. The concept was good, but it didn't really actually make a difference in the end. So there are a lot of things in the NEP which is very good. Bang on. You can choose different subjects. You can choose physics, and you can still pursue music, or you can still pursue different aspects. But in reality, those things look good on paper, but unless they are done with keeping the entire spectrum in mind, we will just be chasing and we'll just be running around in circles trying to please everybody by saying, oh, humne to apna kaam kar diya. But in reality, we all know we are just at the starting point of it. Sure. But yes, the fact that Pranav, Tanya, they are getting people to talk about it. I think that is a positive. And I would like to end by saying, I mean, the fact that we are discussing, I think we all realize the importance of it.
Sure.
So if we can keep discussing about it and reading out to more people, I think we will bring about a change.
Thank you so much, Yudhishter. I think well said in terms of the mindset shift that you're talking about. I think that's a very important thing. And interestingly, I think earlier Deepika ji, as well as you also talked about the counseling of parents. I think interesting part is if you look at the word, and even if I take from a narrow perspective of a student, comes from the school systems, goes to the university, and then obviously the pathways are that I'll get into a job or I'll start my own firm, do something from a career perspective. I mean, if you look at the world today, what does the industry, when I say industry, it would be from the world perspective, whether it is governments, what are the kind of people that they need? They need emotionally intelligent, they need creative people like Ajay has said, people who are able to provide solutions to the world. So that's a larger impact, creating professionals and people that everybody needs. And I think that is where obviously the game is already there. We just have to follow that pattern. Very nicely said. I think, you so-called, sir, you nailed it on its head. The reason is also because if we are reimagining education, when I say reimagining, it's not about, changing every dynamics of it, but eventually trying to understand why this education for what. So there's a purity of knowledge that all of you say many times. So obviously that is very important. But I think what is very important, and we all see in our schools and even in universities, I see that the moment you give them a challenge, the learners get a challenge. They see they are connected to the realities of life and see that there are problems, the hot spots, as we say. And if they're able to align, like you rightly said, align the learning which is happening, whether it is curriculum, practices, assignment, whatever you say, they're able to relate it very well. I mean, that's why our teachers also used to say when I was in the school, is that every child has that particular perspective of aligning things. It's only the moment we start conditioning them, pushing them into this rat race of grades and everything, they start losing out on that sense of curiosity, sense of imagination. And I think that's where the entire momentum shifts. Very well said, sir. Absolutely correct. I think very nicely said it. In fact, sir, as you were speaking, my mind was going back to something that we do it in our university. We have created the 4 pillars of actually action for us. And one of the pillars obviously is a student centricity, which means the student should be leading and doing things how they want to change the world. Another one is obviously, I mean, sitting here in India, I think look at it from an internationalization perspective. But internationalization, I don't mean it from an admission perspective. It means, can we open up the world for these students? So whatever we have to do it. And the third aspect is getting the industry. I think somebody talked about very nicely. How do we get the industry in the real world into the campuses? I think that's another way. And I think Ajay sir rightly said it, the kind of example that he quoted. That's another very, very interesting. And one of the points which I've always felt holistic learning, it kind of elevates it, is this multidisciplinarity and cross-functional understanding. Ajay sir said in that particular project that he gave, the maths, geography, everything came together. So I think that's a brilliant way of demonstrating how this holistic thing happens. Ajay sir, I know that Dinisha ma'am and Deepika ma'am, I believe, have left. They're not, I can't see them on the screen. But Ajay sir, if you can sum it up for us, and then I'll close this particular discussion, sir.
The road ahead is very clear for us because as educationists, we do realize this. But as educationists, we need to handhold and have teachers who are trained to deliver. Because I firmly believe the child is not a failure. We fail to provide that opportunity to the child. So are we providing that opportunities? Are we just not as teachers, killing the child when we say, you didn't write what I expect to write? Now that's criminal for me. Give that space to write a new idea. Judge it. You see, you judge it, evaluate it. And yeah, marks is something which is an outcome. So if you know language, if you know numeracy, if you know fluency, you will get the marks. Marks is an outcome. So my whole approach would be to sum it up. Let us focus on the process, the doable part of it, make it real time, make it problem solving skills. And I think the children will really do better.
Absolutely correct. Very well said, sir. And thank you so much for summing it up for us. I think, as I said right in the beginning, it's such a vast and profound topic to discuss on. And with so many of you who do it on an everyday basis, I think it would have been, Pranavji, it would have been wonderful to have it slightly longer, maybe 2 hours, only then it works. But having said that, I think, to have the top line thoughts from each of these, academic leaders not just from India, but also from outside, was, I believe, very useful. I really wish that we are able to kind of encapsulate all these top line learnings. Pranavji, if you are able to share it back with all of us, it would be a good idea to kind of capture it at our own end and see where exactly we can do it on a micro level. And then, as Mr. Bhatt said, everybody needs to come together and to see whether we can take a good pathway towards holistic learning. So thank you so much, sirs, to all of you, to Deepika ma'am and Dinisha ma'am, who actually came out of their own schedules and be with us. Thank you to all of you. And Pranav, thank you so much for us. And from my side, inviting me also as a part of this particular debate, or I would say discussion rather. Thank you so much.
Gentlemen, as students of Delhi Public School, Bangla East, we, Ashriya and Melanie, are excited to announce that EDU TV has started a movement for higher education for all.
We are proud to inform you that corporates and Indian private universities have joined this movement by offering scholarships to eligible schools across the Indian subcontinent, Southeast Asia, Gulf countries, and Africa.
These scholarships are based on merit, sports, extracurricular activities, need-based, principal's recommendation, innovation by students, girl scholars, wards of defense personnel, daughters and sons of teachers, admission aspirants from remote places, SAARC country aspirants, students who studied in war zones, single parent, students with more than 2 siblings, and students whose parents are not eligible for bank loans.
This is a fantastic opportunity for many students, and we are thrilled to see the positive impact it will have on their education. We urge other school corporates and universities to join this movement and
support higher education for all. Thank you.
Welcome to EDU TV with 4.5 lakh plus viewers and over 1,500 educational repositories across the world. The founder is Mr. Pranav Guha Thakurata and co-founder is Ms. Tanya Sethi from India.